Are you experiencing leaky bladder problems? If it's your bladder inside your body, you should probably see a doctor. But if you're experiencing leaks on a water bladder like this one, the CNOC Outdoors Vecto, like I did with mine, well, that's what this video is about. That's right, guys. In this video, I'm going to show off how you can repair and fix a leak in your CNOC Outdoors Vecto or any other comparable water bladder and so forth. So how did I get a leak in my CNOC Outdoors Vecto 2-liter water bag here? Well, truth of the matter is, guys, I don't know. But in looking up some information on CNOC's website and their frequently asked questions, I found out that it is not an uncommon thing to develop pinhole leaks in the Vecto water bladder. And that they attribute to UV exposure and just regular old wear and tear and so on and so forth. So I was quite surprised by that because when I bought this thing, I bought it thinking it was going to last a long time. It was rated for 200-pound pressure, which I did test, by the way, when I bought it. I actually stood on it because I weigh less than 200 pounds and wanted to see how it held up, and sure enough, I was impressed. So I was very excited to have this bag, expecting it to live a long time, and here I am a few years later. Went on a recent trip with my buddy Devin from Backcountry Exposure, and lo and behold, we both get our bags out on that trip, first trip of the year, and we both find that there are little pinhole leaks in our bags. We probably could have repaired our bags respectively out in the field, but didn't quite know exactly how to do it, because at least for me, I never expected to experience a leak in my bag, but there it was. So came home, looked up some information, and I'm here to share that with you today. So first, a little bit of trivia here. I think I finally pronounced this correctly for the first time. CNOC. I looked it up. I think it's Irish, might be Scottish, but I think it's Irish. CNOC. CNOC. And CNOC actually means hill or a mountain or a great mound. So CNOC Outdoors. Though I think in some contexts you can leave the C silent and just say it knock, but typically CNOC or CNOC. So there you go, guys, CNOC Outdoors, for any of you who struggle with the pronunciation of that. Now, some additional nerd info for you guys is that the material that CNOC uses to make their Vecto bags with is called thermoplastic urethane. Abbreviated, that's TPU. Now, not only is the Vecto made of that material, so is their new Vessica 1-liter bottles, just like this one. But also, so is the Katydyn BeFrees, like this one. That's right, the BeFrees with their HydraPak branded bladders are also TPU, thermoplastic urethane material. So what does that mean? Well, the repair that I made to this bag here can also be done with those other two bags there. So if you're a BeFree user, you can use the same steps that I use to repair the Vecto on your HydraPak bag. So guys, without further ado, let's get into the repair process of the Vecto bag or any other bag you might be repairing made of the same material. First off, you're going to want to gather a few supplies first. At the very least, you're obviously going to want the bag that you're going to repair with you, but also you're going to want this Tear-Aid Type A fabric material here. It comes in a little box just like this. In addition to these two items, some other optional items that you might find handy to have for this process are, of course, a pair of scissors, like so, and you're going to probably want a little towel. I would recommend. This is a little microfiber towel, but kitchen towel would work just as well. You might also want a little Sharpie marker. Lastly, you might want a ruler to have on hand as well. But first, I want to talk a little bit more about this Tear-Aid real quick. And by the way, I will include a link in the description below for the Tear-Aid kit. It's about $10. Some of you might be asking, well, Can I use tenacious tape? Well, you might be able to make that work. I don't know. The reason for the Terade Type A is simply because that is what is recommended on CNOC's website. Again, under their FAQ page where they talk about common pinhole leaks that can occur on this material, they do recommend the Terade over anything else. They also say that you can make a repair of the same kind with super glue just by lightly brushing it on, but they do recommend for a more durable, longer lasting repair to go ahead and use the Type A Terade here. Now it's important that you get Type A as they recommend and not Type B. Terade does make a Type B material just like this in another box, and that, from my understanding, is more for underwater repairs on things like vinyl. So for like vinyl inflatables, pool toys, things like that, you would want to get the Type B. But in this case, we're working with a TPU material, and for whatever reason, Type A is the recommendation. So who am I to argue that? If CNOC said Type A, go with Type A and go with the Terade over tenacious tape. Now, having said all that, here are the steps you can take to effectively repair and patch any little pinhole leaks you might be experiencing on your water bladder. Step one, you're going to want to find and locate where your leak is happening. If it's anything like mine or even my friend Devin's, you're probably going to find it along this little crease on the edge of the Vecto here, if your bag is the same. And that's because this crease here is a point along the bag where it's going to get a lot more stress. That's just a byproduct of how much you roll it and unroll it for storage and when you get out to use. Now to do that, obviously you're going to want to fill up the bag with water, and then if you're at home, I recommend probably just going to your kitchen sink and giving it a good squeeze to help yourself locate that leak. You can rotate it around, but again, might start looking just along that folded crease there. Now, once you have that leak located, you might want to mark it off with the Sharpie marker. You could circle right around that leak, or if you want to be able to rub the marker off later, do what I did, and I kind of made a little mark on the sides of further out of where I'd want to place my patch. So I kind of made it a little target zone by placing 4 little marks in a square shaped pattern. That allowed me to kind of keep track of right where the hole was in the middle of that zone that I marked out. Now, once you've marked off your area that the hole exists in, you're going to want to empty out the water bladder, of course, and then take your towel and dry off the outside of the bag, get all the residual moisture off of there, and just get it as dry as you can. And then that prepares you for the next step. And that step is actually going to be a little bit optional, but still recommended if you want to be very thorough, and especially if you want to follow the instructions given in the Terade kit, and that is to take an alcohol swab, which the Terade kit does include a couple of those, by the way, and rub all around the area that you're going to be applying that patch. That will just help ensure that any little residual oils that are left behind on that material is going to be completely and thoroughly cleaned off, making for the best and cleanest surface for your patch to adhere to. Now at this point, you are ready to apply the patch. Now in my kit, it came with a pre-cut 1.5 inch patch, 1.5 inch on all sides. Now the Terade instructions actually say that you want to allow for about an inch margin around whatever hole or tear you're repairing. However, in this case, again, these are pinhole leaks, so they're very, very tiny little holes. And so I think an inch is probably more than what's necessary. So what you might find convenient is just using the 1.5 inch patch that is included in the kit. It's pre-cut for you, and it is going to give you at least 3/4 of an inch margin all the way around your hole if you get it centered correctly. So to apply the patch, you're going to want to be very careful in peeling off the backing, maybe about a ½ inch or so. However, don't make the mistake I did, where I left my bag completely flat so that the crease was folded over, and I ended up putting the patch on one side first and then folding it over and removing the rest of the backing paper to apply the other side. And I immediately realized that I probably didn't get the hole directly because of the fold over on the crease. I would not recommend applying it that way. So I immediately removed that patch. I wasted that pre-cut patch for me and had to move on to cutting out my own patch, which, if you're in the same boat that I found myself in, that's when you're going to want to take your scissors and you're going to want to cut out another patch that's about probably the same size, 1½ inches. I actually used the backing paper of the pre-cut to serve as a pattern to cut out a new patch. And then at that point, you're going to want to round off the corners. That is another recommendation from the instructions in the HydraPak, to round off those corners. That's just going to help keep those corners from lifting up and catching as easily as they would if they were not rounded. So once you've rounded your corners, if you've had to cut out a patch, you're ready to apply the patch again. At this point, to do it correctly, you're going to want to move that crease over so that you have the full surface area available to apply your patch to. The key here is to not get your fingers on that adhesive, or keep it on the very edge if you can, so that you're not mucking up the adhesive with your oils and rendering a less effective adhesion. So now you're going to want to apply the center of that patch to your hole, as close to the center as you can. Get that on center, and then rub that in, massage that in well. Let the heat from your finger massage that a little bit for a minute, and then continue massaging outward and rub it outward, putting firm pressure on it out to the edges. And that's going to give you a nice solid seal if done correctly. Now if you do it correctly, according to the HydraPak package, you're immediately going to have a 90% bond there, and that's probably ready for immediate use if you're in a pinch. However, if you allow it for at least 1 hour of cure time, to let it rest for 1 hour, that's going to bring it up to 100%. For me, I let mine sit overnight, and then I proceeded to fill it up with water like I have here, and now we can test it out. So to test it out, I am just going to apply some pretty firm pressure here, and hopefully you guys can see where that patch is right there, right here. And as far as I can tell, in my initial testing and even now, it's working, guys. There is no sign whatsoever of any water droplets trying to emerge from where those pinholes were, and certainly nothing coming around out and escaping the edges of this thing. So I am feeling very confident that this has been successfully repaired and ready for new life. I'm very happy that I do not have to retire this bag and send it to the landfill. Hopefully I can keep it going for many more years to come, and if it springs another leak here or there, I now know, and now you know, how you can successfully and effectively patch those little pinhole leaks that inevitably may come up, and continue to get lots and lots of use out of these bags. So, and again guys, you can use this in theory on the other CNOC products that are made of the same material, and of course the HydraPak bags that are made for the Katydyn BeFree filter. And even after spending $10 on the Terade, you've got plenty more of that. There's quite a bit in there that you can use over and over again for other repairs, whether it be repairing more holes on your CNOC or other bags. You can use it on other gear items like sleeping pads and other clothing and so on and so forth. So I hope you guys found that video helpful and instructive. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out, and I'll do what I can to try and assist you with that. And also, my friend Devin, he coincidentally put out the same video this morning, going over the same stuff. I made my repair last night, shot all my B-roll. It's just a funny coincidence that Devin and I, with no coordination on our part, putting out the same video on the same day because we experienced the same issue with the same bladder bags that we have. So if you guys are interested, if you haven't already seen his video, go ahead and check out his video. I put a link in the description as well below. You can get another take on his repair, more or less following mostly the same process there, and his looked to be pretty successful as well. But before you go, make sure you're subscribed. If you are into backpacking, hiking, outdoor camping, you're gonna love this channel because that's what I'm all about. More gear tips and how-to videos like this one will be coming out in the future, as well as gear reviews and lots of trips out into Utah's backcountry and beyond. Beautiful places. You won't regret it. And also, make sure you hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss anything. So with that said, thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Happy hiking.